हाय उत्कर्ष।
हाय भाई।
सो लैंडन्स एपिसोड 2 कैसा लगा?
Welcome to the Super Bansal Brothers podcast. This is episode 1. Decent, but episode 1 के बाद मुझे थोड़ा step down लगा।
मुझको एक्चुअली ऐसा कि इन दोनों को सेपरेटली जज करने का उतना ऐसा नहीं लगा कि मैं उसके बाद स्टेप डाउन करूँ स्टेप अप। मुझको एक ही कंटिन्यूटी में लगा। दो आई डू एडमिट कि मुझको ये एपिसोड शुरू में स्पेशली थोड़ा स्लो लग रहा था। टुवर्ड्स द एंड मोर एंड मोर थिंग्स केप्ट हैपनिंग एंड फिर मेरे लिए वो वापस सिमिलर मोमेंटम में आ गया था।
I will say there is a thing जो मुझे first half में problem लग रही थी and there was a moment in the middle. अभी के लिए for the first few minutes हम non spoiler रखते हैं, but there was a moment in the middle जब काफी पहले फर्स्ट हाफ के मोमेंट्स मेरे लिए रिकंटेक्चुअलाइज हो गए एंड आई रियलाइज कि अच्छा एटलीस्ट वो वाला फ्लॉ इस शो में नहीं है. आई डोंट हैव दैट प्रॉब्लम विद इट. इनफैक्ट आई माइट इवन एडमायर इट फॉर मेकिंग मी थिंक इन दोज डायरेक्शंस अबाउट व्हाई सर्टेन इंटरेक्शंस सर्टेन कन्वर्सेशंस आर नॉट हैपनिंग. कोई चीजें शो की जगह टेल क्यों हो रही हैं. दोज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स आई वाज थिंकिंग ऑफ एंड देन suddenly it clicked into place.
Very curious क्योंकि I am honestly very unsure about what you are talking about, so I'm very curious to know what those are. Simply put, जैसे first episode, I loved how they set up this new world of sorts. जैसे Green Lanterns इस दुनिया में किस तरीके से हैं, लोगों का attitude, एक Midwest छोटे town के अंदर people not having the kind of reverence you would assume they would have. जैसे हमने सुपरमैन मूवी में मेट्रोपोलिस में देखा था, सब लोग एकदम जस्टिस लीग कर रहे थे. People had posters, people are fans of Guy Gardner. Justice Gang, sorry. हाँ. लेकिन in the Midwest town there is an acknowledgement and other things, but now I do not know if they want to show कि all Midwest towns are like this, but these people didn't seem too surprised that they were not being garlanded as soon as they entered. ऐसा फैन लेके नहीं आए थे. तो it does seem कि there is also a differing attitude. जो इस तरीके की चीज़ें of course एक western type के show में होता है. एक outsider, you don't necessarily trust them. You think कि मैं एक छोटा town हूँ, I'll do everything by myself. तो that seemed very interesting to me in this whole world.
हाँ, Hal is the lone cowboy gunslinger who is now being forced to not be lone, but still a cowboy and gunslinger, and then Kerry की sheriff है, तो that dynamic is very much Western inspired. But उसी sense में ये जो sense of world building है of Green Lanterns की position क्या है in this town, वो इस episode ने जो continue किया जिस तरह से, वो मुझे अच्छा नहीं लग रहा था till I realized कि why they're doing it the way they're doing it. But while that is the thing I liked, non-spoiler sense में if I talk about what I didn't love, that would have to do with I think some of the fears that we had before going into the show. Is it going to feel too much like they're trying to fit the sci-fi Green Lanterniness into a HBO pop show mold? वो मुझे इस episode में लगा कि not कि इसमें ज़्यादा है compared to episode 1, but कि अभी तक भी चले जा रहे हैं. We are now 2 hours in and we're still just watching, except for certain moments in the show, we are still watching something that's dialogue-wise has that same edginess. It has the tone of Hal is responding to situations the way any of these cynical protagonists like maybe Minister or Mayor of Easttown would.
I know what you mean, especially, and I think now it has been enough time. We can start to get into small basics at least. Start of the episode to Hal doesn't have his ring. Like he has his ring, but he doesn't have any power in the ring. And जब वो होता है तो मुझे लगता है this is another way for the show to just saying कि अच्छा है नहीं, we don't want to show any power, we don't want to waste money. And there is a good chance that had something to do with how they wrote it all. But I do disagree कि he still felt like Hal Jordan taking a lot of those actions, especially the true fearlessness where he knows that there is a sniper standing there बहुत दूर और उसको पता है कि वो एक्चुअली मार सकता है. He was just trying to bluff his way कि अच्छा हाँ maybe they will not think, because he assumes कि they do not know उसके रिंग में कितनी पावर है and they will not necessarily want to take up this fight. and he does end up getting shot by a sniper.
We are in full spoiler mode, huh?
Yeah, full spoiler.
Gradations नहीं करते.
Yeah.
This is full spoiler mode. Okay. So that moment was actually one example for me that didn't work for me क्योंकि उससे कुछ ही मिनट पहले मैं सोच रहा था there was a moment for Jon Stewart and certain things happened with him. I'm struggling to remember what the events were, but they showed that he was truly fearless. It's not just that he is playing up some bravado. There was something happening where he actually just was not scared of the situation at all. And this was a moment where I thought that no, in order to write fearlessness, they have written stupidity.
I know what you mean. In fact, when I was taking the notes for this, I had actually written that the fearlessness can also be kind of bullheadedness. So I actually like this because then it makes fearlessness into just an attribute. It's not necessarily a good attribute, and it also makes it seem like कि जो Ring का criteria है, Ring is not discerning that you are fearless because XYZ चीजें. You can be fearless maybe because you are pathologically fearless. You won't fear a chainsaw. Like this is saying, right? Ki a fear of chainsaws is called common sense. So I think it is interesting that way, but I also think Hal Jordan it was kind of an informed bluff. He has worked a lot of things in the past, similar situations, and I feel he was doing things in a way where he measured the cost. Partly, I also think Hal has a more given up attitude towards a lot of things. In fact, when he talks to Sinestro, and it does seem a lot of his sadness about life and everything comes from this past relationship with Sinestro, which we'll explore in future episodes. तो मुझको ऐसा लगता है कि अच्छा हाँ, because of all of that, he has lost that kind of love towards life. Like he feels alive only in these moments when he's just rearing at people. That is why even in the bar he went for that fight.
Yes, I do think that makes sense to some extent. He's also so powerful that he puts himself in situations where he would be hurt. They say he made a choice to not bring the lantern with him. He could have brought it Shinusei because it's a case. But I think somewhere in the back of his mind, the idea that his ring might run out of power and then he might actually get hurt was exciting to him. He clearly hasn't completely given up because he's not ready to give up the position of Green Lantern to a replacement. He's not ready to die in that sense. But and since you mentioned the fearlessness not necessarily being an asset all the time attribute, I will also bring up a brief comic interlude where I really like that they are going with that original reading. For those who don't know, Green Lantern comics may at least since 1960, maybe since 1940 when he was created. Fun fact, by Bill Finger, who also created Batman. Right. Crazy, but at least since 1960, Green Lantern had always been a position which the ring bestowed on you by checking that you are completely devoid of fear. And it was only in the 2000s that the now common reading came in with Jeff Johns' run, where he introduced the idea that the ring detects that you have the ability to overcome greed fear. And the reason I didn't love that was because that is an attribute for every superhero. If you're reading or watching movies with Daredevil, with Spider-Man, Superman, all of them at some point have to face situations where even despite their powers, they have to be scared and they have to get up anyway, they have to keep fighting anyway. And the interesting thing to me about Green Lantern and on Marvel's side Daredevil was that they are slightly nutty. They don't feel scared even when they should feel scared, and that is often an asset, but sometimes it might even hurt. And the Guardians don't always make the best decisions, we know that. So maybe programming the rings to do this was also not the best decision.
Maybe it's not about a decision. Maybe if the ring is powered using emotion, so you just have to tap into these extreme individuals. If you tap into someone more at a midpoint level, so it will enhance them and do something, but it will not allow them to power the rings in a certain way. Maybe kind of like the Captain America decision in Captain America, where he had to put a super soldier serum into someone. If he had put into someone strong but like mentally not so good, so the super soldier serum would have made a very strong, like monstrous figure, maybe someone stronger than Captain America, but they would not have been good. So maybe the Guardians chose the other thing here. And I think they do try, like at least depending on the story and depending on the guardian in question, to find a good person. But we have Guy Gardner, we have Hal Jordan, and we have Jon Stewart potentially.
But I want to get back to a moment जिस पे हमने अभी बात की थी, the Ring's power. This is a nitpick, but I was slightly annoyed that. Okay, so first the thing I liked was that once John returns the ring to Hal, उसका construct फिर भी रहता है. The bird is still around. That's a cool showcase for both John and Hal.
And also a cool showcase for what the Ring's powers is, because I was genuinely surprised in that moment. They had shown in the trailer कि एक bird है. I thought it was just going to be some gag about कि अच्छा he wanted to fly, but instead of flying himself, he just creates a bird. In fact, it kind of shows something interesting imaginatively. But when he took the ring off and the bird remained, I wondered कि oh okay, the constructs work in a very interesting way.
And I like that it shows us that John is sort of compatible maybe with the ring, maybe the ring has chosen him in some way, and also that this is not a regular occurrence because Hal की शक्ल पे एकदम से लिखा होता है. It's sort of like when Thor saw Captain America almost lift the hammer in Age of Ultron. He's not, he doesn't know what to make of this. But what I didn't like was कि when Hal lost the power and he fell down, उसके बाद भी bird रही, because even if John is powering the construct through his own will, it's still the ring's technology which is allowing it to exist. So why can the ring still have it?
I get your thing. See, it's one of those things जहाँ पे I have an explanation, but because of all the past history I have had with trusting these people to have a very detailed thinking about कि अच्छा ये ऐसा चलता है world building में, ये rules हैं. Therefore, I am not very sure if I should posit this. But my theory is that all constructs are essentially leaky. और उनको पावर किस तरीके से रहती है. I feel that especially with the living construct, what he made, it essentially had its own power and it would have maybe decayed away but much slowly. In fact, Hal जिन्हें जो भी चीज़ें बनाई थी, they were very simple objects. This guy made something very complicated, like very very intricate, very very complicated. I hope some architect wala background comes into this, because comics when he's an architect and I want that more than just a basic military person. But if that thing, he is someone who can think of something to the depth of her internal mechanisms, and this is where I said that bird was so self-consistent. He didn't need anything else powering it. That could work for me. But the whole thing is कि I do not believe necessarily कि creators ने उस depth में world building की है. If they have done it and we'll see it across the next few episodes, then yeah, great. Then like this show might even become better than what it is for me. So
that's definitely a possibility. So okay, I think I'll bring up now the moment I was talking about in the episode where a concern became a compliment from me. A thing I like about the episode, and that is कि till a certain point I was thinking, why aren't we seeing the small town explode their community, their culture as much? And this really came to a head for me in the scene जहाँ Hal hospital में होता है and he's talking to Kerry. And Kerry उसे बता रही है कि I have earned their trust बहुत मुश्किल से and they're suspicious people वगैरह वगैरह. And I was like, we could have seen all that happen. Hal could have talked to some people in the bar. It could have felt like an RPG where you have taverns where you gather information and all that stuff. And Hal could have learned that some people think of Kerry as the boss, and some people think of Macon as the guy who really runs this town, and what kind of conflict there is, what the history is. But in the very next scene, when Hal sees कि पूरा hospital खाली है, पूरे hospital की visitor book खाली है, all that stuff, I started to realize maybe there's a reason that everything in this town feels so superficial, so much like Westview from WandaVision, so much like a TV show come to life. It's all right out of not just an HBO show but any old Western. Maybe this is a construct of some kind.
Yeah, construct, maybe, even if not a construct, maybe there is some reason that all the people are too much in line. The life they are living is a bit more constrained. Because even when the town meeting happens at the start of the episode and Hal just drives in, everything is empty. Like everything is completely empty. Town meeting mein, Though I do not know, maybe Western American towns or Midwestern towns work this way for some reason, but it is absurd कि एक टाउन मीटिंग है और इतने सारे लोग हर तरीके से सब कुछ खाली होते जा रहे हैं. It should still be a running town. So that definitely was part of it.
And are people not getting injured because they are all aliens who are superpowered? Yeah, are they all manhunters instead of one manhunter? Maybe manhunters are self-replicating in some way.
I don't think so. In fact, I do think there is only one manhunter. Though there might be some experiments the manhunter is doing on these people to modify them or maybe to cull them off, to cull the ones which it doesn't like and make a lot of the rest of them like it. But I do want to partially trust the sheriff. Like, I don't think she's a femme fatale. I do think she would still have her own agendas kahin pe, but I do think overall she's on the side of good. Also because first episode in my flashback mein, we see that... Flash forward, my bad, sorry. Flash forward में we see she is on good cordial terms with Jon Stewart. She brings him here. So
Hal the question he पूछता है कि immediately when he sees the hospital is empty, he asks her where are you from, and it turns out she's from Gotham. She thinks he's asking this because he looks down on the Midwesterners, Hicks or whatever, and he thinks that she's better than them. But I think he's asking because he suspects that she is not part of whatever weird is going on. So maybe if all of them are in some way not who they seem to be, she is one of the few people who are what they seem to be. She's actually from Gotham. She's human.
Interesting. Though, like, what I suspect is there is only one manhunter, and like that is my theory, and I don't know if you also have this theory.
Who do you think?
Zoe Macon.
Agreed. But my theory actually, I didn't think of it myself. After the first episode, I watched, I think Nando V Movies ka video on this, and he didn't suspect that she's a manhunter. He said that whenever the husband talks about, I have a boss and I can't tell you who it is, it would be funny if the wife turns out to be the boss. And now I'm thinking that if she's a manhunter, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe he wants to protect all this from people who are not born on Earth, not because of the obvious xenophobia parallels, but because he's protecting a manhunter.
See, I hadn't watched any such thing, but the reason I started thinking about this was more for normal storytelling reasons. If you want to have a manhunter who is being protected on the thing, a boring way would be that it's under a thing where an alien is trapped. And I do think that given that the manhunter is not the alien being targeted, in fact, the manhunter might be the one who is opposed to these people who have been killed. So it seems manhunter must be pulling the strings. So then a string puller just sitting inside doesn't sit right with me. I initially thought, could it be the kid we saw? But wo sheriff ka kid hai, it would be weird for that kid to be, because like kids are a trope. But the lady fits. Also because the father is white, the son is extra white. So the lady being a direct biological mother doesn't make sense. So she must be like a stepmother who was married to later. That is part one. Part two is, firstly, she's a manhunter and she hunted 2 men. But otherwise, even if I don't consider it that way, because I was considering possibility, she spoke some dialogues. The way she spoke a few things, it indicated to me in the episode that maybe she's alluding to this kind of thing. Though the whole speech about this is how white men are, I wondered what, if anything, that will have to do with the whole manhunter story thematically. Because with all of that, it does seem that the show doesn't want to make us think of manhunters also just as pure villainy.
There's a lot going on because we also have the alien who died in the first episode talking about vengeance, and we need to find out what is that vengeance for. Was the initial act maybe partly justified, partly unjustified?
The vengeance was for the genocide jiska imprint happened, like वो genocide, right? जो बता रहा था aliens कि उनका genocide हुआ था, तो it was done by the manhunters.
Right, I didn't connect those two things, of course.
Yeah.
So it's for that. I think in that case it's quite possible that manhunters, or whichever manhunter it is, turns out to be pure evil. But if Arkansas saved the manhunter, he could have done it because he doesn't believe in the death penalty, or he might have done it because this manhunter was not guilty of that crime.
Yeah, but see, again, it's one of those things where these people are only hunting the manhunters. should they also be hunting the Guardians for that matter? Like, how do they feel about the Guardians? And therefore, how do they feel about the Guardians' other forces, the Green Lanterns? And therefore, could they be trying to just manipulate this Jon Stewart guy because they think isko ta nahi pata hai? He does say ki, therefore you will be easier to imprint.
Yes.
So yeah, that imprinting could be a good thing or bad thing. Interestingly, this is something I noted to discuss ki when at the end he is telling Hal everything, like he's effectively snitches about कि हाँ मुझको तो इन्होंने ये बताया Manhunters के बारे में. He tells everything except he doesn't mention that he is now imprinted and he saw what happened.
Good point.
And
because he doesn't want Hal to wonder if he has sympathies towards their cause.
Yeah. And I think he also wants, he doesn't fully trust Hal. So he doesn't know कि Hal का agenda क्या है इस सब में.
I also suspected it's Zoe for another reason, which is a storytelling trope I generally dislike, which is, you might remember the Falcon and the Winter Soldier made before episode 3, before the quote-unquote villain of the show is revealed. They're all talking about that villain and they don't know anything about the villain, but they're using he and him pronouns for the villain. And then the reveal is, oh, it's a girl. And यहाँ पे Jon Stewart is never told that the Manhunter is a man, but he still tells Hal he is hiding somewhere here and stuff like that. He uses he. And जैसे उसने वो कहा मेरे मन में click हुआ, you don't know it's a man. And then I started thinking, what if part of the reason that
the thing is, like, yeah, I am not very fond of this trope. If they overly do the he thing, I don't particularly remember जब उसने बोला था कि वो he वगैरह बोल रहा था या नहीं. But I think the reason this trope does sometimes work is कि मेरे दिमाग में भी default पे Manhunter से he था. I had to kind of be like, अच्छा नहीं, it might be this person. And because I had a Zoe Megan possibility in my head, particularly during the bar scene, therefore I was thinking कि अच्छा हाँ, ये वो औरत हो सकती है. There's another thing which I was also thinking of, going back to the initial thing, something which you had mentioned, कि Hal जो है वो अपना Green Lantern वाला lantern नहीं लेके आया था इधर. I have a feeling कि जब वो शुरू में उसको बोलता है कि Jon Stewart को कि अच्छा हाँ, like you should be very careful about when to use the ring, it's a lot of it about. I think he just didn't want to admit कि he is very like careless about carrying the lantern, careless about charging the ring on time, and therefore उसके पास इतना होता ही नहीं है चार्ज, so he has learned to be very scrappy with it. And I have a feeling कि when we learn about his history or something, when Jon Stewart sees कि past में कैसे करता था, we would see कि ये Hal Jordan एकदम ही crazy बड़े constructs बनाता था या कुछ cool करता था.
That could be a very cool flashback, and then especially because इस show में there's a decent chance they do that thing which a lot of superhero shows have been doing recently. People call it Surf Dracula, where you watch a TV show called Surf Dracula and you have to wait till the finale to watch Dracula actually surfing. So if maybe we'll get to see full-on Green Lantern action only in the finale. But before that, if they actually do want to save it for the finale, they could use flashbacks to show us some cool Hal Jordan action.
To be very fair though, I think it's also because of how the other shows have starved us, but I was so surprised, so happy कि end of second episode we see Hal Jordan in the suit.
Absolutely.
And then we see him fly off into space to meet Sinestro.
Yes.
In current timeline, not in a flashback, not in a flash forward. Current timeline, he's talking to Sinestro, who was like, he was earlier name dropped. I thought they have name dropped him, they will bring him later, or they'll just show him remembering something. But no, at the end of the episode, he goes into space to do this. And if it's just the second episode, I imagine आगे क्या होगा, because first episodes में sometimes a lot of these shows do it because they want to create the buzz, they want to land on a good note. Even ये जो Iron Heart show आया था, the first episode they gave her the full armor, they did everything. Then the armor went away. For the rest of the episodes, she was just a person जिसके पास एक दो छोटे gadgets and she was building the armor up slowly. Though, to be fair, Ironheart did have the armor presence in more episodes than I would have expected from other shows. But in this, he was already doing these things. And the other thing which they are doing, the investigation thing, I am curious about it. The thing where the detectors were actually alien detectors, I didn't immediately think of that. Like वो initially बस देखता है कि the metal detectors are not working. I thought कि ठीक है लेकिन इसमें क्या बड़ी बात है? Metal detectors not working is not the biggest thing. But alien detectors have वो, and therefore he brings those bodies, he moves them through the thing. So
it's got that detective media thing where it's fun to play along with the detective and understand how he's looking for clues, how he's solving the mystery, and solve it with him. Especially because for a decent part of the episode, like Kerry, we also don't exactly know what the mystery is, what is Hal investigating, and Hal doesn't even know exactly either. He just knows something's off. It's only when John brings up Manhunter that Hal puts two and two together that a Manhunter is behind a lot of this.
Yeah, and जब I was saying कि Hal का fearlessness वाले and all we were discussing right earlier. I through all of this also remembered something that John did, where first when John is hit on the head and फिर वो van में उठता है. Van में उठने के बाद he is not looking around and like there's nothing on his face which says fear. He's just trying to figure things out and then go. But even उसके अंदर भी he's very military calm about it. In the sense कि he is analyzing it and then he makes the move when he can. Later उसको तो फिर capture हो जाता है लेकिन capture से पहले road के ऊपर भी there are cars oncoming but he doesn't care. And while you must have thought कि Hal was being bullheaded earlier and weird about it, even this in many ways was not always rational. Like jumping onto moving cars वहाँ सामने से आ रही है, like he doesn't have any powers. A car could have simply crushed him and killed him.
Also, I thought it was not very heroic because he knew that his running this way could lead to crashes, would lead to crashes.
Was leading to crashes.
Exactly, and instead of avoiding it and going to the side of the road and then running, he was doing it for self-preservation. So, a weird moment because I think the other part of it, the bullheaded fearlessness is a deliberate choice to show up this part of John's character, but I don't think the non-heroic nature of his action was that well thought out.
I am reserving judgment on this. I agree with what you're saying. I felt a potential thing that okay, why is he not caring about कि बाकी vehicles are crashing and there might be injuries or even deaths there. But I also wonder if there is an evolution to be had. That because I do feel that his fearlessness comes from this very weird thing where his dad was shooting apples off his head from episode 1. Now maybe that is translating to something where his fearlessness is actually that pathological one where he kind of forgets about the rest of the world.
I did find the fearlessness thing impressive. Actually, at the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned that there's a John Stewart moment where I really liked his fearlessness, and I can't remember what the moment was. That was when he tells his captors that you'll just have to torture me for nothing. The calm way he said that, it's like he knows he's going to be tortured, and that's not scaring him. What did ultimately scare him was when this thing which he didn't understand, the imprinting that they said was going to happen, that was about to happen. Then he was scared.
I am not even sure if I would call that scared. He was trying to avoid it, but I think taking an action which is not pleasant doesn't mean to avoid something which is not pleasant. I don't think that necessarily translates to fear because he was. I felt struggle on his face, not fear. उससे पहले भी like when he told his captors that, the interesting thing is we see a lot of it happen in other shows, but we always feel कि अच्छा नहीं, that's a mask of bravado someone is putting, someone is maybe making a bluff, or maybe they are just too strong or they know that they have something on their sleeves. But this guy had none of it.
Yeah, he wasn't pretending.
हाँ, he just felt कि ठीक है या होगा या नहीं होगा, अगर लगी तो ठीक लगी इसमें, like what does fear have to do with anything? So that was quite cool in some ways. The scene before that where he was actually exploring the apartment was also very intriguing. Like I felt weird about Hal having just this big mansion of a house. Ki what kind of a life is he living? On the other hand, it also seemed he's not living that life. So it also seemed hollow in some way. So is Hal vain? Is Hal trying to live a certain thing? Does Hal not know? Or has Hal become like this after whatever happened 10 years ago? Like, those questions themselves are very fascinating to me.
Yes. So, production design wise, it did its job. It made us think about the character who inhabits that space. I did like that. I want to get back to Sinestro because so before the final scene, we have a name drop for Sinestro, and at that point, I was wondering why Hal would be saying his name in his sleep because nothing from the current investigation would make us think that subconsciously Sinestro has been on his mind. So is it just like, I mean, in the comics, a lot of people shit Hal and Sinestro. So is it just that for years he's just been obsessed with Sinestro to the point that in his sleep he remembers his name? Or is it maybe specifically whatever happened 10 years ago that traumatized Hal so much and that had to do with Sinestro, so he keeps having nightmares, recurring nightmares about him?
मुझको actually trauma वाला लग रहा है ज़्यादा and trauma, and I do think this is like a death thing, right? Like he was shot, though I don't think he was close to death necessarily, but still it was something which put him in a hospital, which makes you closer to those level of emotions. And it might also have to do, however, with like the idea is that Sinestro wali cheese was definitely related to betrayal and some mystery around something. I feel that maybe the feeling in the town, because this is also related to an old Guardians related mystery where he doesn't trust the Guardians, he doesn't trust the system. The whole reason he's obsessed with this is actually the Purana Guardians wala uska suspicion. Like there is some detective obsession of his which makes him want to really get into this.
So this town he associates with Bansal.
Yeah. So I have a feeling कि इन चीज़ों की वजह से there is some connection to his पुराने guardians and that which he remembers, and in general like Abinsor is Sinestro was his commander, like, and I feel कि now that he is teaching someone younger, there is that dynamic happening where Sinestro to Hal Jordan and now Hal Jordan to John Stewart. तो उसकी वजह से maybe some memories being brought up because how was Sinestro as a teacher to Hal must also be playing in his mind somewhere. Though I wonder कि in this iteration did that happen? That happened in some iterations where they both get paired up and they are doing their missions together.
I do think they will go with that because they're clearly trying to show that there was a strong bond between them before Sinestro attempted a coup. So the most natural way for that bond to form would be that Sinestro was Hal's trailer. I
really did like Sinestro ka look.
Yes.
Like he did seem someone very real who could have existed. So he also felt like a Russian enforcer from some older time in some way.
In the first trailer, I thought that Sinestro looked a little too pale, not red enough.
Yeah.
In fact, आपने भी mention किया था once to me. But once we actually see him in the show, the makeup and everything looks.
I have a very good feeling that after that Lindelof, whatever his name is, Damon Lindelof, that podcast thing, interview thing, and the reaction to the first trailer drop, they decided कि हम जितना color को वापस थोड़ा सा डाल सकते हैं, inject कर देते हैं into everything because लोग चढ़ जाएंगे. Because अभी भी it's not as if color is too much, but okay, it's better.
It's better than the first trailer made it seem.
I am very very curious though in general about Sinestro का role जो है, would it be bigger than just this थोड़ा सा ऊपर जाके interaction करता है, he gets information, will he come into like maybe the direct role इतना ही होगा, but indirectly or at least at the end him coming back, Jon Stewart के लिए coming back. I do wonder what they will leave.
If that kind of thing happens, it could be set up for season 2 where we find out that while everything on Earth was going on, Sinestro broke out of prison or someone broke him out of prison. But I don't think this season they want to use him for more than a.
See, there is one reason. Sinestro asked about Jon Stewart. He should normally not know about Jon Stewart. So he has information coming in from somewhere. He has his sympathizers, partners, allies, or whatever, some way to get information on what is happening right now. So therefore, it's not as if कि वो बस एक जेल में कैद है and he only has past information. Sinestro is still somehow doing some things. So yeah, I do think कि even for a better story, उसको pure रखने के लिए, rather than having an influence of Sinestro doing things on Earth, they would keep him away. But उसका information source एक तो हो सकता है वो बार-बार आए, not just once. And it might then be one of those things where actually like Hannibal Lecter एकदम आखिरी वाले episode में while giving information he also escapes. So that could happen.
Well, I think it can be a future story. I just feel like in the last couple of episodes they will want to do everything to resolve and give a good climax to this story, and that I don't think will involve Sinestro.
A question a bit tangential, but do we think that at the end of this episode there was no flashback? No flash forward. Do we think Guy Gardner is only a flash forward character?
I do think so. I think he's probably not a Green Lantern in 2016 because the assumption seems to be among all characters agreement that one sector only has one Green Lantern. Something happens either at the end of the 2016 story or between 2016 and 2026, which makes it possible for either Hal and Guy to both be Green Lanterns at the same time, or Hal maybe leaves the sector. That was one of my theories after episode 1, that Hal becomes a Green Lantern of a different sector and Guy becomes the protector of the sector. Something happens which allows the possibility of doing that.
I'm very curious will this whole arc get resolved in the current timeline or will it be something where iska story has to be resolved in a future timeline and like maybe वो half resolved पे रहते हैं, they have to wait 10 years now Jon Stewart will solve all of this.
I do want to spend some time with that murder mystery also, who killed Hal Jordan and why. I hope it's not just like this episode we didn't get any scene, next episode maybe we get one scene, that kind of thing. I hope that the weight starts shifting towards that timeline soon.
I wonder कि वो कैसे balance करेंगे. See, if Guy Gardner is coming and he's going to come in future वाला things only, so maybe there will be more explanations there. Or maybe they want the true mystery of it to be solved in season 2. Who knows?
Speaking of DCU connections, very briefly we saw a pocket dimension जिसमें Hal the Lantern was there. I was wondering if the original script just included a kind of box and then James Gunn was like, hey, you could make this a pocket dimension or something. Like, why? Yeah, it's not like that dimension looked very cool or it said anything very interesting about Hal. So I was wondering why else they would do that.
I think it's also to make it feel that okay, this is more protected. Like this is not just a simple thing where Hal ने अपने घर पे लैंटर्न बस ऐसे रख दिया कि अच्छा कोई भी आए लेके चला जाए.
Voice protection थी, voice activation.
How voice activation अपने आप में doesn't seem like the biggest one. Like voice activation, if it's a safe का voice activation, instead of doing voice activation, you use a very strong hammer. But if it's a different dimension, तो उसको तोड़ के भी क्या कर लोगे?
But then John ने भी कुछ special थोड़ी किया था to get the lantern. He just touched that and what did he do with that?
I feel like firstly you have to know. Like I'm saying, if you don't know what is there, like if you just you're just carrying this thing, and I also have a feeling that we will find out that he has more things tucked away. Like अभी हमने ये दिखाया है, but he might have different souvenirs or other things.
Peacemaker-esque.
Yeah, so like it opens possibilities. I think I like it for the sheer thinking कि क्या होता है and
that could be something that John investigates in the 2026 timeline. He goes into that dimension to see what Hal had there. Maybe he wrote something saying what's going on.
I really hope that somehow. I know it's stupid fan hopes and very few people, not very few people, but people like me do it. I hope Hal Jordan is not dead. He something
disappointed if he's alive.
I know. I would be disappointed also. I will be disappointed either way. I will be disappointed if he's dead. I will be disappointed if he's alive.
The disappointment of his death, I felt all of it when at the end of episode 1 we found out he's dead. It's like, oh, Kyle Chandler is such a great Hal Jordan. I would have loved to see more of him than just one season.
I think मेरा थोड़ा denial है इसमें. So I am like I just don't want to accept that he's dead. So मैं उस stage पे हूँ, मैं denial वाले stage पे ही हूँ. Later I start to bargain कि अच्छा ये मर गया लेकिन maybe parallax की तरह वापस आ जाए या कुछ ना कुछ करके वापस आए.
It's just the MCU has become such a fated thing franchise that so far the DCU is not that. So I really hope that James Gunn can stick to that whole thing of dead is dead.
I think what I don't like is इतनी जल्दी deaths. Like I don't mind deaths. What I dislike is कि कोई आते ही मर जाए without me getting to spend the time. Like for me, the first Green Lantern I ever knew was the Green Lantern comic I got बचपन में. that Green. So for me, my first Green Lantern was Hal Jordan. तो उसके बाद से मेरे लिए ऐसा है कि अच्छा हाँ, Hal Jordan is the default Green Lantern in my mind. I know for a lot of people because of Justice League it was John Stewart.
But for every generation before that it was at least everyone was still alive. Generations. The Alan Scott generations are probably not alive anymore.
Yeah.
But, I get that. It's just because it seems like it wasn't just a death. It wasn't like a Game of Thrones or a saga kind of shock death. It seems like the murder mystery of the whole thing of why Hal was killed and that investigation will be at the heart of the show. Even though we didn't get a single scene from it this episode, the whole thing, the whole story in 2016, I feel, is leading up to whatever will end up being the cause of Hal's death. So that's why I'm completely okay with Hal dying.
Yeah, see, there are so many Green Lanterns out there anyway, and DCU, it's a movie series primarily, and even the TV shows, it's not one of those things where we are getting 24 episodes every year. So in that kind of a setup, it's not like you can tell me all Green Lanterns ka story which you would want. So they can focus on the few more modern Green Lanterns. Someday someone will reboot this also, and then we'll get another DC universe, and maybe we'll get Hal Jordan stories fully there.
Hal Jordan has at least had one season of animated television. Even Wonder Woman hasn't had that. Jon Stewart hasn't. Kyle Rayner. Some people, I know there are people who started reading comics in the 2010s, and for them, Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz are their Green Lantern. Some people got into it with N.K. Jemison's series on The Journal Marine, Far Sector. Any people who are following the Absolute Universe, a lot of them will be introduced to Green Lantern with Joe Malone. I don't know. But, so there are so many lanterns left.
Yeah. So now, before we go for closing thoughts and other things, one last thing. The suit itself, it is something where it seems a bit better than what it looked like in the initial shots. जिसकी वो green भी नहीं, वो grey group लग रहा था. It looks a bit better. I'm still not a big fan of how the look is, but it worked when he was in space. Like it worked when he was meeting Sinestro, and I think कि if they had to do the suit design, they would have had to try to match it with very different kinds of backgrounds. So it feels a bit off in that Midwestern town, but it looks cool enough there that I think I kind of then appreciate it looking off in the town.
I get that. I just feel as a superhero suit, it feels a little too heavy, a little too over-designed. I like the original Gil Kane designs or the Darwin Cook design in New Frontier, where it feels like cloth, it feels light and bright. I like that kind of thing.
I know, but sometimes some of these things don't translate to live action, especially is tarike ka, because they start to feel like Comic-Con cosplay costumes. So I know what you mean. In fact, I would have wished to see that, and it's better than the CGI suit from the much punched actually. I call it punch down because I think itne punches liya usne ki it is lying flat on the ground.
Yeah.
That 2011 Green Lantern. So it's much better than that. But it feels stiff to me more from a practical point. Because when he was taking a suit out, I felt that I always imagine that Green Lantern, jo usko kahin jana hota hai, he just uses his ring, wears the costume, flies jitna far jana hai. Now in this kind of a scenario where he has to put all of it, and it's a rigid costume, so you feel that it will take time to put it all on. It's not one of those things where he can wear it under his other suit.
Yeah.
Because I think the advantage of the cloth costume is where he wears it under his suit, so that would have been cool.
Yeah. I hope Jon Stewart gets to choose a design for himself in some way and wears a different kind of costume.
I love the yearning in his eyes when he saw the suit and he was looking at it. In fact, it was one of the rare moments of vulnerability where because when he was imagining it, he was actually feeling happy.
Yeah.
All the other things he has been doing around being Green Lantern, they all seem like he's going through the motions, he's just suffering. But in that moment, he actually felt like the child on the shuru mein dekha tha, who was looking at that interview with all that love.
Yeah.
So I do hope there is some improvement, or we see it more action. Like it's not just one of those things. Space में उसका फिर से सूट रखा है. But I'm happy with what we got. Though maybe it's because the MCU has really starved us of suits during the regular run of a show.
Yeah, there is one thing that I want to see in the show, but I don't think we will get any of it. And that's just at the end we see this prison complex, this whole prison planet. And just politically, I do not like prisons, and I especially do not like American prisons, which is what this planet seems to be modeled on. And I would like, if a show is going to the trouble of questioning the way Guardians do things, the way these space corps operate, which I think this show is questioning, then I would like also some kind of understanding of what a prisoner's life is there and some questioning of that. I don't think that's what this story is about, so they won't do it, but it's just something that's been so normalized in superhero media that like Superman throws prisoners into the Phantom Zone, the Fantastic Four throw them into the Negative Zone, and readers just don't ask questions of like, how is that helping? Is it actually making the world a better place? I'm afraid that's what happens.
And you see, in a particular scenario, I could get it, right? Like these are super villains who you can't normally contain. So you feel that this is where an analogy from real world breaks. So you should probably not be able to compare them one to one.
Yeah.
But the fact that they are making analogies with other things, and these penitentiaries have a similar kind of look, similar kind of feeling. The prisoner was wearing a prisoner costume.
Yeah.
So, and they use the same kind of sounds of the doors opening, doors closing. So they do want to replicate those feelings, which invites these questions a bit more. Though that's the unfortunate thing with these 10-episode shows, which will air, like, which will have seasons in 3 years, 2 years.
Hopefully not. I mean, the one thing DC seems to be doing that Marvel, at least earlier, was not doing is that they're getting experienced TV showrunners. I mean, just last week, we got the official announcement for the Jimmy Olsen Gorilla Grodd show, and the only reason I'm looking forward to it is because it's from the American Bansal creators, and everyone loves it.
So with DCU's current track record, I'll believe it when
absolutely they announce so many things which don't end up happening. But my point is, if they're thinking of TV shows as TV shows with proper showrunners, with proper episodic structures, at least even with this episode, which I didn't love, I can still think of it as the episode where this happened.
But it's not just about that, right? Because see, Stranger Things was something where it was intended as a TV show with runners. It had very long schedules. It is something which has plagued television in general lately. It's not just about DCU or MCU. Like when I said the earlier thing, it was not a slight particularly on the MCU. It was a slight more on how modern streaming shows have become. Though perhaps HBO will figure out how to not do this, and
DCU
will figure
out the way with the Pit, which is completely strictly annual right now, and it's amazing. And then the schedule is not hurting the quality at all. The good thing is the showrunners are already they've been talking in interviews about how they're already discussing season 2. So maybe they will get working on it.
Yeah, so if they do it frequently enough, if this season, if this show actually has legs for it to become like a 5-6 season thing, then I would assume they might do something where they explore these prisons. For that matter, even if they did not explore that prisons themselves are bad, in Green Lantern, the animated series, the prison that it did have, where the early Green Lanterns were simply disposing of their old, anyone they captured, those prisons were ultimately turned out to be run by corrupt people who were just in it for the money and extracting things. So in that also, they were heavily questioning that, this whole sector was abandoned by the Guardians and they were trying to forget about it. And the Green Lanterns went there, they found that even currently the way penitentiaries and all work there were flawed. So,
and however we find out Sinestro is getting his information, maybe whenever that piece of information is revealed, offhandedly they can also reveal to us how this prison works, why it's easy for him to get information.
I don't think that they will necessarily go in the full line of that abolish prisons, and that is a very different kind of thing. But to comment on the flaws in the prison system, you don't need to go to that line necessarily. And I do think that they might do that, though not in this season. I very, very strongly doubt that they will do that. They will, I think they will be more concerned making points on Earth itself. But I think there will be points about old fights, immigration, of course.
Genocide.
So,
I
and
don't-
trauma of genocide.
Yes, I don't trust Tom King to handle any of these things well because of his both writing history and professional history. But maybe some of those ideas can come from the other writers in ways that kind of
The thing is, I trust Tom King not because of his views, and I shouldn't say I trust him, but more like I don't mistrust him enough. Also because of his writing, because of the things which he has written, I feel that he understands a lot of these themes well, and he is a smart fellow for all the stupid, problematic, evil things he does in real life.
That is true. I do think his comic writing has dropped off a cliff, but he was a co-writer on episode 1, so clearly it's not like he can't write anything anymore.
Yeah.
That was a good episode. So
Yeah.
hopefully, and of course, my biggest hope is that he won't return for season 2.
The thing is, the catch-22 here is, if he doesn't return for season 2, it would be because the season 1 did not perform as well, which means that the chance of a season 2 coming in time, or in fact maybe even be like maybe the season 1 itself wasn't very good, all of those things might happen, and I don't necessarily want those things to happen.
But it could also be because he gets busy with his Mr. Miracle show, which we can very happily ignore because it's a complete Tom King creation.
I like the Mr. Miracle comic, though I am not 100% sure about it. And yeah, like he is a very good creator, and unlike some other people whose faces you have to see the whole time,
Yes.
you can still relatively ignore the writer who's writing it. You can't ignore his writing, but yeah, if I feel that Mr. Miracle's show is doing something interesting, the Mr. Miracle comic, if you read it, it is so anti-war. It talks so much about the weird things which happened during torture, this and that it actually seems like written from someone who has experience with CIA and now hates it.
Yeah. I think a lot of his comics, the Sheriff of Baghdad, I think, or whatever it was called, Sheriff of Babylon, one of those, that comic also has that sort of thing. Ultimately, like, at the end, a lot of his comics have a nihilistic conclusion where he says that the systems are terrible, the people enforcing those systems are terrible, but they have to do it because the other side is also terrible, the people trying to fight these systems are also terrible, and there's just no hope anywhere. That seems to be kind of how he writes a lot of his comics, I feel, but since he's not the sole creator here, I'm more optimistic. Like, even for the first full episode, I was mostly able to ignore it until the end when there's an actual suicide bombing and my mind went to, oh, right, an ex-CIA guy wrote this. Nothing told me that it's being handled in a bad way yet, but it's just felt like one of those real world baller.
And it wasn't I didn't feel like it was trying to code it in a way where I felt that.
Yeah, we aren't supposed to be scared of foreigners, we're supposed to hate William Macon, who's scared of foreigners.
Yeah.
And when he says that thing about vengeance, we are supposed to wonder, wait, is it valid vengeance?
Yeah, in fact, till now, from what we are seeing, it seems like that even if we don't want the vengeance to be executed in that way, we understand the reason for that vengeance, which actually is a pretty fine thing to use.
Yes, on its own, that is completely fine. It's just that it made me think of Tom King, and I don't like thinking of Tom King because he's sucks. And also, I don't trust him to ultimately provide a good resolution to this. But hey, I haven't seen Ozark, like Chris Mundy can provide it.
I don't trust him, I don't mistrust him. That's where I am right now. So, next episode's future, what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to more space shenanigans. When he just flew off the Earth, for a split second I went, is he going to OI? Is he going to OI? Is he going to talk to the Guardians about the Manhunters? So hopefully at some point they do go to OA, we see more Lantern. I want to see John fly. And in terms of the ground level mysteries, I am more invested in the 2026 mystery, so I hope we get to see more of that.
All I'm wondering is, when will Superman come? No. Gaiga, yeah, but like, it's not that I'm waiting with bated breath for it, unless it's what I hope, which is that he's there for an extended time. Like Lanterns is not just these two lanterns, but like all three of them, and there's more to it.
Yep.
But if it's just a cameo, then I don't really care when he comes. What I am looking forward to more is figuring out, like getting the Manhunter early. Like I don't want this mystery to last long. Like just tell me in the next episode that Zoe Macon is the Manhunter and get on with it. I want that part to move on faster. If not, then I want some very interesting things about what is happening wrong in that township.
Yeah.
Either of those mysteries to progress.
I keep thinking Westview. Rushville, I think. Rushville is still not cemented in my mind. Westview.
Though the next episode, the preview we saw, seems to be about Jon Stewart's backstory. Let's see how interesting it is. We are getting a Guardian taking a human form for budget reasons. Yeah. So cool. Looking forward to the next episode. See you then.
Yes, we'll release our next episode in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, 1 week, we'll see.
Okay, yes. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Super Bansal Brothers podcast. I am Utkarsh.
And I am Utsav.
You can find me on Twitter at UtkarshBansal95.
And you can find me on Instagram at RealUtsavBansal.
The music is by Nat Yons of the Collective Action Comics podcast.